And thanks, Ashu, for also the very kind words. And in this presentation, I will go through these following things. For those who don't know me, I'll tell about who I am. And then the next step would be what goes into making a musician and my life till now. And then followed by what music and being a musician has taught me, and why I think this discussion would matter to you. And then we'll have a final discussion as well. So, I'm basically an Indian musician and a music composer. Right now, I'm based in Berlin, and this is the reason why I'm talking with you guys here today. That because I'm a musician, and the thing is that right now I as a performer, I perform in a few world fusion bands here, and which comprises of musicians from different parts of the world, like Iran, Israel, German, then Italians, and Brazilians, to name a few at least, if I remember from the top of my head. And these are all some really nice, cool fusion bands with which I'm playing. And I'm also running a YouTube channel. I hope that you remember to subscribe, because when you talk about YouTube, you should immediately say you should subscribe. So here's me saying that. So I run a YouTube channel as well. And I'm also working as a music advisor to some of the musicians and the music composers in the Indian film fraternity. And I also do session music works with my home studio here in Berlin. And as I said, I'm also performing in jazz ensembles and freestyle improvisation concerts as well. And I've been involved in some of the remote collaborations across the world. Have been really critically acclaimed, have been featured in international radios as well, like the BBC, and also in films and documentaries. It has been in international films and short films and documentaries also it have been featured. So that's as well. And by the way, I'm also I'm basically an electrical engineer, and I have done my PhD from Technical University Dresden, and from masters from Indian Institute of Science Bangalore before that. So that's a brief bio of who I am. So the next would be my thoughts into what goes into making a musician. So this is strictly my point of view. This is not this is from my experience and from my experience interacting with other musicians and collaborators, what I think goes into making a musician, and a good musician at that. So I feel that the first point of thing which I always think about is whether a person chooses music or the music chooses a person. Personally, I feel that there is not a very clear understanding scientifically as to why human beings do music. The purpose of music or purpose of sound or making sound in other species is pretty documented for particular evolutionary reasons. But in case of creative arts and human beings, it seems to there seems to be not a clear understanding as to why we do music or why we do arts, and where creativity also arises from. And so in that aspect, the philosophical question that always has, which I always grapple with is where and why music comes to me or any other musician, and does it happen to everyone, and whether or not it happens to everyone. And my belief 51 to 49 is that music chooses the people and people don't choose the music. Of course, one can train and train to do music and train to play an instrument and all these things, but training doesn't always trigger creativity. So my belief is that creativity is something which, or inspiration is something which comes from somewhere else, and it's not something which is taught. Hopefully science can address this soon, if not late. Okay, anyway, as I said before, for a musician, per se. Training is important. And the following points, I'll just put the following points here. So the first 4 points which I want to say, which make a musician, is training, practice, listening, and openness to learn. The reason why I gave all the 4 points together is that
Vijay, are you
yeah,
moving the slides? Because I can see just the first slide.
I am moving the slide. Okay.
Okay. Enable editing.
Oh, okay. I am moving the slide. Okay, I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can just
Screen sharing. How do I resume share? Okay.
Resume slideshow. Maybe you can click on that.
Click on enable editing first, and then click on slideshow.
Okay. Enable editing and then slideshow.
Yeah, I think now you'll be able to.
Okay, I've been looking at the slide. Okay, anyway, just for a recap.
Yes, it is working now.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the content of the presentation. That's not important because it will be coming anyway. And this was the thing which I told who I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So, and now, yeah, these are the points which I was talking about right now. What goes into making a musician? So, I feel that now you can see the screen, right?
Yes, Vijay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice, thanks a lot. So, yeah, for a musician training, so the reason I put all the 4 points right now together is that this is a part of a cyclical step which one needs to go through. So one needs to train, for example, learning an instrument or singing, or for that matter, learning to draw or something. You need to train yourself. It might be training from a teacher, or it can be a self training. And then you need to practice what you have learned, and also listening. In case of music, it's listening and getting to understand the way other musicians and other experts in the music field, how they are handling their craft, and an openness to learn from different people. So even the tiniest of thoughts can teach you the greatest of lessons. So one should be open to learn as well. So these are 4 important points which contribute towards making a good musician. The next aspect, which I feel, is also taking risks. One can always learn a particular kind of music. In my case, I learned Carnatic music. So I learned Carnatic singing, but then I took up flute out of interest, out of passion, and I learned it on my own. And now that has kind of become my go-to way of expressing my music. So I identify myself more as a flutist, Indian flutist or a flutist, rather than a singer. Even though I learned singing, but that was kind of a risk which I took. But it was because of my motivation towards learning the instrument, or because of my fascination towards the instrument. But that's just an example. Taking a risk could also mean like trying to collaborate with a different genre of musicians from a different genre, so that one can learn. So this again leads to openness to learn, and then training, and then practicing, and then listening, and then so these are all like one feeds the other. And then of course, when you take risks, you are bound to make mistakes, and mistakes are the stepping stones to success. So one must learn from the mistakes. And then the other aspect which I feel, which is not discussed much in case of musician, is the necessity for communication. While music is a kind of a collaborative field as well, and communication is very, very essential between musicians, and between the fans and the audience and the musicians as well. So I think in that aspect, communication is also a very important necessity or a necessary quality that a musician should learn. And finally, my thing is the enjoying the process. So I keep saying, when the journey is the destination, every step is happiness. So when you go through these points, when you are when you do music, the process of doing music, when that itself is it gives you the gratification, and it gives you the that feeling of happiness. Then you're not dependent on what you achieve, but rather on the process, and this itself makes you motivated and inspires you to do better. So these are the things which I feel go into making a good musician. So, and I try to give a brief summary of what my life has been. So this is more to do with the title of the presentation, My Creative Journey, but this is the journey aspect of that. So yeah, of course, it is because of luck and privilege that I have been given the opportunities also to get associated with music, because my dad is a musician. He plays the Jews harp. It's called the Morsing. And because of that, I have always been exposed to music even from my childhood. And so that contributes in environmental and genetic factors. I have read a couple of papers in some journals as well about the genetic contribution towards creative arts. And there is also an environmental factor, of course. Not to say that only when a person has a genetic predisposition can he or she become a musician. I'm not saying that. But of course, when you have this luck and privilege, it always gives you a better opportunity and a chance. And the next one is, of course, the opportunity. Because I come from a musical family, my father used to play a lot of concerts. So I had the opportunity to go to concerts, to listen, to learn from how the great musicians like, say, for example, Mandolin Srinivas, with whom I have interacted a lot, to say the least. I've interacted with him a lot. I have traveled with him as well. So to learn from him on how he performs, how he carries himself, and all this, and to live through this experience of living with music and doing concerts. Those are all opportunities which it's only thanks to the Almighty, or it's only by luck. So of course, those all have helped me. And then there is also this thing of motivation and enthusiasm. Yeah, from my recollection of my childhood, I have always been interested in music. It has always been the go-to for me. Any music for that matter, not only Carnatic or Hindustani or classical music. It has always been any kind of music, for cinema music as well. It has always been something which has motivated me to, and that's the way where the music has always been the way through which I tend to escape the drudgeons of the reality. So in that aspect, it has been good. And then music, there were, of course, when you take any person's life, there is always struggles and overcoming hurdles. So I had my share of struggles as well. I was physically disabled for like 6 or 7 years, and during that time, actually, that was the time when I took up flute out of fascination and as a way to escape the pain and that suffering, and that actually helped me. And music has helped me, overcoming the kind of hurdles and all that one can associate with physical disability or any kind of struggle. So that has actually been a motivation factor, and it actually has helped me. Music has helped me in overcoming that, I should say, to be honest. And coming over the years, it has been like creating avenues, in the sense that once I took up flute, once I realized that I could learn things on my own, that we can inspire ourselves in a way, that actually opened up my eyes in a way that I could create opportunities for myself. So that was the reason I opened a YouTube channel, and that's the reason why I could even now collaborate with people across the world, from Australia to America to Singapore to Italy. I'm able to do that because of the inspiration or the motivation which comes by doing the music. And these avenues with the help of all my collaborators as well, has been creating avenues and more opportunities for all of us to do nice and better music as well. So that has been good. So that has been my journey till now. So now let me talk about what being a musician and what music has taught me. The first and most important thing is patience. So nowadays we live in a world of Instagram and Snapchat where you have only 15 seconds. So nobody seems to have patience at all. But I feel that in being a musician and in learning music and in performing and collaborating with other musicians, this has given me that very, very important quality of patience. One needs to be patient. One needs to put in the hours. One can't learn something overnight. Sometimes certain things come for us immediately. Sometimes we need to put in the hours. We need to practice for 10 hours, 20, 50, 100. I remember myself where I had actually, when I was learning to play the flute, I used to sing, and so I used to play whatever I learned in singing on the flute. And there was a time when I played a piece called Varnam, a Kalyani Varnam. The Kalyani is a raga, where I remember that I cried because I couldn't play that. I was unable to do it. I remember that day when I cried. And then after 1.5 years or so, there was a visitor who came to my house, and he was a musician. And so he told, okay, you play the flute. Can you play Kalyani Varnam? And I was playing. And while playing, I realized that I was playing the song. I don't know when it had happened, when at the point at which I had cried to point at which I could perform. So during those 1.5 years, I had been practicing. So that's a quasi-static phenomenon. You just don't know how it is happening. But then with patience and more effort, you do tend to become better. Of course, you need to practice, but you need to practice correctly, right? So the next thing which I feel that music has taught me is to be humble, because as I told you, I had interacted with some of the greatest musicians that I have ever met: Mandolin Srinivas, Dr. Ramani sir, Karaikudi Mani, Zakir Hussain. So all these people, one thing which I saw common was how lightly fame and sat on their shoulders. They were like some of the most humble people that I've ever met. And this is not just to say good things about all these great musicians, because I met them as a young kid, and I met them as a teenager as well. So I have interacted with them, and particularly with Mandolin Srinivas, even the simplest and the most absurd of the questions which I have had, if I ask him, he used to answer it with all his all the seriousness. It's like it was amazing. And also the other thing is that whenever we feel proud of whatever we have done, it also comes to me, I realize that there are people who are doing it better, which actually acts as a motivation for me to become better. So you don't need to feel proud about what you have done, but of course you can feel proud, but you don't need to. That should not be the only aspect of doing music. That's what I feel. So in that aspect, humility is something which is important for a musician, and it has taught me as well. And music has become a second and another language for me. In my young days, in my childhood, I was an introvert, and so when I had to collaborate with musicians, when I went to IASC, I was in a band. So I had to come out of that shell, and music was the language. So I didn't need to talk. I didn't need to speak in Hindi or in Tamil or in English. All I needed was to take the flute and play. And then the other musicians will also join in, and that was the language. So through music, we could communicate whatever we wanted to tell. So in that aspect, it was really a nice deal for me to learn another language through music. And this artistic expression of emotions, this is true in a sense that when music has always been the go-to method for me to express myself, to, as they say, even the going too much of happiness or too much of sadness is not right. So you have to tread in the middle. So in that aspect, when I'm happy, I play the flute, it manifests in the playing. And when I'm sad, when I play, it manifests in the playing, and I'm able to, dissolve those extremes of emotions as well. So that aspect, it has been really good. Music has been helpful, and it has taught me how to express myself. And this is one of the most important thing which being a performer and a musician has taught me. That is the dealing with expectation and pressure. Every time when we take the stage, it's an examination. My father always says every concert is like an examination. So if it's every concert is an examination, one can understand the kind of pressure one has. And the people who have paid the money to come and listen to the musician, they are waiting there with so much of expectation. And dealing with this expectation and pressure has taken time, but this has helped me in other aspects of my life as well. So there is always expectation and pressure in any field, where you need to get work and get money, or need to perform. There is always going to be an expectation and pressure, and being a musician has taught me how to deal with all these things in a nice way. And the next aspect is the dealing with criticism. Whenever we perform in a public forum, when we put out something of some creative output of us in a public forum, there are going to be people who like it, and there are going to be naysayers, and there are going to be people who are going to downright criticize and ridicule you. And over the years, dealing with criticism has been something which I have learned. This is what I told, when the journey is the destination, every step is happiness. That's because when I don't have expectation about, oh, this should perform really well when I put it out, because if my happiness is dependent on what the people are going to say, then it is out of my control. When it is going to be when the performing that particular process, when the process itself is going to give me that satisfaction, then I am actually unlinking that expectation of accolades coming from the audience to having a happiness derived from that. Of course, that adds to the happiness, but that is not why I do the music. So in that aspect, dealing with criticism comes automatically. You can take the good things, what people say, in the same stride as the bad things or the critics which they say. It's always all these plus and minuses make up for a good mix, I think. And finally, there is going to be success and failure in our projects. So sometimes I come up with some on the stage, I come up with some ideas. Sometimes, so that is taking the risk. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But the point is, success and failure is part of every step. So that's the next point. The equanimity which one needs to have in dealing with success and failure, that has also been, in a way, it has become more mature in handling success and failures, and also in moving on from failures as well. So sometimes when we try to play something, it doesn't come. I try again, it doesn't come. So I need to move on from that. And if I'm going to dwell on that particular failure, then the rest of the concert or rest of the performance is going to get affected. So one needs to move on, and this is kind of a really important aspect in our life as well, to continue to deal with success and failure in the same stride and move on from failures. I think these are all a lot of points which music has taught me. Of course, this is not a complete thing. Every day when I perform, every day when I play, music continues to teach me. That's in a way, it's good. So the next, this is from my aspect as to why I think this talk would matter to you. Maybe in the discussion, you all can also tell me as to what your take home from today's discussion would be. But what I think, how I think this matters to you is I thought of this and then I thought, okay, I'll draw parallels between music project development and the product development, because Ashu told me that this is a management class. So I thought, okay, let us take a product development example and then go through the steps which are involved in a product development from a music project development perspective. So every product needs to have a vision. Similar to that, every music project, even if it is requested by some other party to for me to come up with some music piece, there should be a vision. Sorry?
So please, guys, you need to mute yourselves when somebody.
Okay.
Yeah,
No issues.
go ahead, Vijay. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So one needs to have a vision for a product, followed by when you have a vision for a product, then you need to do the research. So same way, I come up with some idea. Okay, let me do this kind of a music. Then I need to do the kind of research. Okay, what are some of the greatest musicians? If I want to do a classical piece, a Western classical piece, then generally I go and listen to the stuff which Beethoven or Tchaikovsky has done to get an idea as to, okay, these are the steps which the doyens have taken, so that one can from these research one can decide as to where one can push the envelope. And in that aspect, research is really important. It is always important in any aspect of product development, also in project development, in a research, also in a research field also. And the next would be defining the requirements for the project. So it could be like the human resources which are required, like the personnel. So if I come up with a piece which I want to do, then I have to decide on, okay, I need a violinist for this, I need a percussionist for this, I need a guitar player for this. So such kind of requirements I tend to write down, and then I have to find out the people who I can collaborate with. And then if I see that, okay, some part of this I need to learn, so that would be the next step, training and procurement. So you need to get the people on board, and sometimes I need to get some, for example, a new plugin. For example, when you do mixing or something, I need a new plugin. So I need to procure that, and I need to train myself. For example, if I have to play a new instrument, then I need to learn and then train myself to play that. So such kind of training and procurement is also an important step, which is followed by the design. So what is design here, in the sense that, so I as a music composer will design as to who performs what tasks. So if I have like 4 or 5 collaborators with whom I'm doing, I'll give the parts for them as to which person has to do what part, and which person has to play at what time, and this kind of a design, which is also there in a product development cycle. And then there is the prototype development. So in case of a band, for example, when I play in a band, we come up with some new piece, we all discuss together, we design parts for us, and then we try to play together once. So that would be the prototype. We play together and then we see which parts work, which doesn't work, which can be done better. And then this is the development process. So we brainstorm together and then we make the steps. We progress towards a betterment in the sense of the final product. And documentation. So this I rankle my head as to how to fit documentation into musical project development as well, in the sense that when I do music with other people, I have to give parts for them to write. So I thought, okay, that could be in a way associated to documentation. But in a strict sense, documentation I do personally based on projects. So if I've done till now I have done hundreds, 200s of projects. So sometimes certain sounds which I have used in one of the projects, if I have a proper documentation, so if I have used a piano patch in some music, in some project, if I remember, oh, I used this kind of a piano patch somewhere, if I have a proper documentation, which I do make, then I can always access this documentation and go back to the other project and see what I did there to reproduce there in my new project as well. And then testing is where we, for example, we perform together to our to an invited set of audience. I send it to some of my friends who are like really who give unbiased opinions about the piece, so that I can, you know, make it better. And then this goes back into the development. This feeds to the development process, and then, you know, it's a cycle, and then you come up finally with the final product which you launch. So where I send it out to Spotify or to YouTube or whatever. So I think this is kind of a parallel which I try to you know, develop between a music project, which how I develop, and a product development. And for example, I'll try to play as a case study. I'll tell you a project which I recently did during the lockdown time, which is, I'll show you from my YouTube channel. I don't know if you can see now.
Yeah, we can see it.
Your screen sharing. Okay, it
Yeah.
says. Okay. Okay. So this is a piece called Billahari Bounce. This I composed. This piece I had composed like 2.5 years back or something. This was a small piece which I composed, and it was always there. I never thought about this. And then I was interacting with some of my friends who are part of this project. And then I thought, okay, let me take up this project. So that was the thing. I took up this old idea and how I modified it to fit for the different kind of musicians who are here. So this was done during the... So in this piece, I just wanted to pause here to tell about my friends as well. So this Sundar is in Berlin as well. This Dorai Srinivasan, who played the violin, is from Chennai. And Swaminathan, when he played, he was in New Jersey that time. So as a case study, I wanted to tell this project. One aspect of thing which I missed was how important copying is. So people generally ridicule copying and plagiarism. I'm not saying that one should plagiarize, but as I told, one should stand on the shoulders of the doyens, right? So in that aspect, this is a very good example, because this piece of music I had composed it was inspired by a piece called Darlene, D-A-R-L-E-N-E, Darlene, by I think it was L. Shankar's Darlene. And this was also in the same raga, Billahari. And I think that was done with Frank Zappa. And that was a thing which inspired me to do this piece. And so that is the thing. So the vision I had was to do something along in Billahari in the lines of Frank Zappa and L. Shankar. and that was a piece which I had. And then when the situation arose that I have certain musicians who are capable enough to play certain things, so I did the research how Zappa and Shankar had done it, and then I charted out the requirements. I needed a violinist, I needed a rhythm player, I needed a guitar player, and the other things where I needed to do some kinds of electronic piano arrangements. So I practiced it myself. So in the background, whatever other music elements that you hear is what I had programmed myself. So that's something which I had to train myself to do. And then I designed the parts which I had all the people, all the friends of mine had to perform. Then we did a prototype, and then I asked them to, correct certain things which I found to be lacking or which could be improved, and they suggested certain things to me. And then I documented as well as to what I did for the electric piano and stuff like that. And then finally I tested it out with my friends. And one of my friend, Dr. Umaram, with whom is a good collaborator, she suggested the name Billahari Bounce because she told the music is very bouncy. So that was the thing. And then I did the final mixing and mastering, and then I did the video, and then it was launched. So this was and this was done over a period of, the final product thing was done over a period of 4 days. From the requirements, training, design, prototype, development, documentation, test, and launch took 4 days. But the initial vision was like 1.5, 2 years back. It was there, but it was there in the back burner, and it was never, I didn't go to it at all until the situation arose. So that was like a case study which I wanted to show you. Wow. Anyway, I have come to the end of the presentation. So let us have some discussion right now. So Ashu, give it back to you.
I'll just a couple of comments before we start taking the questions. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen so that we can see each other better. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. So Vijay, thank you so much. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that we have been talking in class that the students could actually relate to. The last bit, very, very pertinent. I would like to address the students about the creative process that we have been talking about. And I've been telling them that a creative process doesn't follow a real rule or a stepwise fashion. And sometimes an idea can lie in your mind for, like you said, years, 1.5 years, before it actually became something tangible. So that was one thing. And your collaboration, because we'll be talking a lot about collaboration in our future classes. So I'll be referring to this session a lot when we do that. But in general, what a beautiful and inspiring, creative journey you've had, Vijay. And, what I wanted to say is that, the inspiration that you talked about, your environment that you talked about, all these are things that we actually talk in our class. And we had an artist coming in who was talking about how she gets inspired. And today we heard you. So I think the students are going to take away a lot of stuff about creativity in general and life about also, because I think success, failure, criticism, these are the things which we face, not just in context of creativity. This is something that we face in life as well. Yeah, so before we start the question and answer session, there was one request that we want to hear you play live on your flute.
Sure. Have my flute here.
Yeah, sure. So let's have that first.
I'll play, for example, Vande Mataram, because it's something which everyone knows.
Sure. Wow. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, we can see a lot of applause, virtual applause.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So now we are getting a lot of comments saying we loved it, it was amazing, and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so sweet of all of you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And one of your students, or one of the audience, they wanted me to share a part of my Iranian fusion ensemble performance.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll try to share that. It's there on YouTube actually.
Yeah, sure. It's
a long piece, so maybe I share a bit of it.
Yeah.
And this was done like during the lockdown. We managed to, secretly go with our masks, just remove the mask, do the video, and then come back. So, but I advise that people shouldn't do this. So I'll just share this as well. Moment.
Yeah, sure.
It's called Anson Ensemble. So this is the piece actually.
این آب آتشی ره به حال خرابم نمیبره این جمع‌ها جسته هم میشود دریای آتش گریزم به کام دریای آتش گریزم به کام
So I'll just stop there and probably I'll share this link
Yeah.
so that you guys
Oh,
can
I'll
also.
share your YouTube channel with them. Definitely, there's a
Sure,
lot
sure.
more to.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm seeing some chat messages. Hamid, if you can unmute yourself, because Hamid, are you from Afghanistan? We have a few students from Afghanistan, and I saw somebody actually,
Okay.
recognizing the kind of music that was being played.
Yeah,
Hamid,
yeah.
if you're there, can you unmute yourself, or if you want to chat, put your question on chat? So he actually recognized, and he was saying. And
This
there
is
is
sonati
Hasiba.
type of music of
Yeah,
Iran.
yeah. And
Yeah.
we have
So
Hasiba.
just to tell about my band members.
Yeah.
So the main singer, he's the band. He organizes the sessions for us, and his name is Siamak. He comes from Iran, and he came to Germany during the crisis from before, and then he has settled here. And so the music that we do together, it's actually a mix of rock and roll and all kinds of genres. So the other songs, when you take it, will be like completely bonkers. So it has all different genres together, and the other two are from Israel. So it's like Iran and Israel. It's a collaboration between
Wow.
Iran and Israel from then, and they're all really good musicians. So the guy who was sitting between me and Siamak, he plays the oud. It's a Persian, Middle Eastern instrument. Also is there in Israel, and the other guy was playing the kahan. He's a percussionist. He also comes from Israel. His name is Matan, and my friends, the one who plays oud is called Doron.
Wow.
So we go under the name of Anson Ensemble. So Ansan means the other way, it seems, in Persian.
Wow.
So Hamid can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah.
And we also have Hasiba, who's also from Afghanistan. She's saying it feels, I'm remembering all the happy times when we were
Yeah.
growing. So I think there's a lot of Persian influence in Afghanistan music. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He says that. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
good.
Hamid, I can hear you. You want to say something?
Hello, good evening, sir, and ma'am, and everyone. It's actually it was modern the musician and oldest one, because the meaning of the music, because the meaning of that is from the very oldest poems. It's a very deep. It's very deep, and this type of
Correct. It's
songs are
called porcon.
very famous.
Yeah, it's porcon, and
Yeah.
it's porcon pialora. He had explained me the thing. It's like fill the cup or something or something. It's
Yes.
like wine worshipper, or where wine is supposed to represent knowledge. So it's all philosophical. He takes the lyrics. So in our band, we take the lyrics from Bidal, Rumi, Hafiz, all sorts of these great Persian poets, and then Siamak sets the tune, and then we do the arrangement together. And yeah, it's quite popular here. We have performed uh, like few concerts which were like house full, and it's because of the corona we had to cancel like so many of the gigs right when it started becoming big, and so hopefully it continues. Yeah.
So another thing, Vijay, Himanshu was mentioning. So we were talking about inspiration. You've already inspired somebody already who says, "Wow, look at the variety of instruments we have in the world." And he says, "I want to make a list of all the instruments that exist in the world."
Oh,
So
that's so
Himanshu's
sweet.
already chosen a project, and it's so wonderful to get to see him getting inspired by this. And this is what creativity is, happening on the go, right?
True. It just inspires. Yeah, we don't know where inspiration also comes from. So in that
Absolutely.
sense, it's nice. It's
Absolutely.
nice.
So a little bit about collaboration, Vijay, because we'll be talking about collaboration as a technique. And generally, when I talk about collaboration in context of creativity, I talk about it from the point of view of science, because we are taking 4 or 5 artistic domains, and I consider science as art as well when it comes to creativity. And you kind of come from this technology science perspective. You have been a research person yourself. So are there any parallels when you collaborate, like you drew a parallel between product development, but is collaboration in science or research also similar to collaboration in music? Something
Yeah,
specific?
in a way, it's also a direct parallel you can draw, because I can talk from my experience of doing a PhD. That's also where we have to define a problem. Then we have to identify the resources which are required for that, what are the requirements, and then we need to procure the stuff which is not there. We need to train ourselves certain techniques which need to be handled, which we need to, for drawing inferences from the observations. And so the steps are more or less there in every aspect. And from science, collaboration is extremely important in science, because that's what moves science forward. That's how scientific breakthroughs happen, right? So when you see the biggest of publications from the Large Hadron Collider, you have 1,700 scientists' name, which goes for 17 pages, contributors. So that is a collaboration. If one doesn't do that, then they couldn't have found the Higgs boson, or for example, the gravitational wave. For example, when you see those publications, you see like 1,800 people who have collaborated. Of course, have all of them contributed the same in the same way? That doesn't matter. But finally, what matters is, are we pushing the envelope of our understanding of science and our day-to-day world? Science is more to do with that. Of course, it has become a rat race where one needs to publish or perish. But finally, science is about understanding the basic construct of the world and how life in its core happens. So that aspect, collaboration is what makes us. That's why society was even formed, because for the need of collaboration. In numbers, we have a strength. So that is the basis for collaboration, right? So hopefully, yeah.
So we have another 5 minutes or so of the official time, though we can always stretch it a bit, but request people to come in and ask their questions. You can unmute yourself. And of course, in the end, we are going to request Vijay to play one more piece for us before he leaves. While people are thinking about their questions, I also want to talk a little bit about copying, which you mentioned, right? So where do you draw a line when it comes to copying and inspiration? What is it for you which distinguishes where inspiration stops and copying begins? And these days we have a lot of remixes happening, particularly if you talk about film music in Bollywood, and that is what is happening. So where do you, personally for you as an artist, where do you draw the line? What is copying and what is inspiration?
For me, I look at it like this. When we were children, we used to, at least when I was a child, I used to learn something called cursive writing.
Yeah.
So where you have the A and B, and there are like 4 lines, and then it's already there, and then you have to write on that.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps in understanding how you need to write the A and the B and the C and all these things. And then you write afterwards with this knowledge, you write the A, B, C with the, with the guidelines. And then later on, when you have just a ruled notebook, you write. And then in an unruled notebook, you continue to write, but with the same fashion, right?
Yeah.
But you use those A and B and the techniques that you learned, but then you don't write again whatever was, like a story like which was already there, like a Shakespeare novel. You don't just write that. You tend to write your own stuff, but you use that tool. So basically, in a musical construct as well, we have so much, so much to learn, and there is not enough time. So in that aspect, if we learn, for example, to play Beethoven music, a part of, say, Ode to Joy.
Yeah.
So you learn the chord progressions, what Beethoven has done in that, and so that gives you an idea. For this kind of a melody, this kind of a chord progression sounds very, very, pleasing. So then when you compose your stuff, you can use this kind of ideas, this kind of chord progressions. But of course, you have to compose and come up. You can't just, redo Ode to Joy and then say, yeah, I did a remix of Ode to Joy and this is my stuff. Of course, that is also your stuff. But that is not the end. For me personally, I feel that should not be where we should stop ourselves. We should try to learn from these great masters and whatever people have done, and try to apply it in our context, and try to use it in a way where we can embellish our music and make it our own. Finally, you have to stand on the shoulders of all these giants, but you can't just take Einstein's equation and then say, I derived relativity. It's not how it works, right? So you need to, if you want to understand how black hole works, you need to go from general relativity and then apply it to the kind of observations you see. And finally, you need to draw conclusions. So you can't just copy, but copying is not the end, it's the start. From there, you need to progress and then identify what you can contribute and how you can make it better. And with regard to remix, I don't need to say anything. The people whose songs were remixed by like A.R. Rahman, he has given his own conclusion of how he feels. So there is nothing that I have to add to that. If he feels that it is doing injustice, so what should I say? He's the composer, and if he feels he's let down by this remixes, then I think people should take a good hard look at what they are doing.
Yeah, precisely. So waiting for questions from you guys. If you want to unmute and ask some questions, please do that, because before we close, we'll ask Vijay to play something for us and then we'll break up. So anybody has a question? Or already in the Saturday? Yeah, okay, great. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My name is Shashwat. Sir, actually, I wanted to ask you that how should one decide on an instrument, like which instrument should one play? Like in your case, you ended up with Bansuri. So yeah, those were like some motivations or some inspirational points which made you end in with the Bansuri. So how should I decide on which instrument should I play?
Okay. I'll tell about my dad, how he took up the morsing. So in that piece which I showed you, the Billahari Bounce, there were two Vijays. One was playing the bansuri, the other was playing some other instrument. That instrument is the morsing, and my dad plays that. So he took up this instrument when he was actually 20 years old. And he had no musical background or nothing. He went to a concert because his friends forced him to go to a classical concert, like a Carnatic music concert. And he was so thrilled to hear this sound. And that was the starting. It was like, wow, what is this sound? How is it? And, Mridangam is supposed to be the king of percussion in South Indian music. And the morsing, his guru was playing. His guru, he was not his guru that time. So his teacher was playing and he was so inspired. And he decided, okay, I need to go and talk to this person who is playing this small instrument and is making such amazing sound. So he took up morsing. And when I asked my dad the exact same question, how did you decide to take up morsing? He told me this, I didn't take up morsing. The morsing decided that I should be the player who should handle it. So that's what he said. And it might sound very, philosophical to say that, but I think you should follow your gut feeling. If you are inspired by an instrument, drums or ghatam or tabla or pakwaj or sarangi, of course, given the financial means to which to acquire that instrument, one needs to take into consideration. Getting a flute was cheaper for me, but of course, I was exposed to a lot of great flute concerts by Dr. N. Ramani. He is like my inspiration for taking up flute. So how one says Hari Prasad Chaurasia in the North Indian Bansuri, it's similar to South Indian Carnatic is Dr. N. Ramani. And both Hari Prasad ji and Ramani sir have played concerts together. And that is amazing. It's like when you listen to such amazing people play music in a way where one can't even imagine, wow, one can play this instrument in such a beautiful way, or one can play a song in such a way. That itself inspires. So music, for me, flute was like my first love. So I fell in love with flute, and that's why the vocal, as I always say to my mom, it was like an arranged marriage and it didn't work out. But flute was like a love marriage which worked out for me. So it's still going strong in that sense. So it is good.
That's quite a bit of learning, I think. So fall in love with something and before you choose it. And don't let anybody force you to do something.
Yeah, when you have people force you to do something, it will only work to that extent until you finally decide, okay, it can give no more, and then one decides to say, call it quits, right?
Yeah.
So one should get that inspiration or whatever from within. In a way, all these extrinsic points of loci is good to inspire people, but finally one needs to find that inspiration within oneself. So you listen to me playing flute and you get inspired, it's great, but you need to find that inspiration that should start a spark within oneself, and then when you have to nurture that spark, that will hold stead. Because if you find something which is really good and you do that, but you don't resonate with that over a longer period, then it won't work out. That's my understanding as well. So I think I hope that I made sense to, I think, Shashwat, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else with a question? Otherwise, we can ask Vijay to play something for us. Anybody wants to ask a question? You can even put it on chat. If you otherwise, unmute yourself and ask the question, please. None at all. And Vijay, we'll request you for one. There's one comment coming from Dr. Kesri, who's saying that we should have an open elective in music, and we should have the students produce a music project, which is a wonderful idea.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
That actually doing that would people will be able to find more, or find or identify about themselves more. It'll actually trigger one to explore aspects of oneself which they have not yet actually have cognizance about. It's actually good to trigger such things. When you are pushed out of your comfort zone, in a way it helps. That's good. OE is open elective. I didn't know
Just
that.
wanted 1 minute, if you allow. I know that this is your personal class. I'm an outsider, but still.
No. Go ahead, Kesri, please.
What I was trying to say was that we have the IIC cell also, Innovation Center.
Yes.
So if Vijay can help one of the group in developing such project, don't you think that it will be a great idea? I'm sure that Vijay would love to help us.
So for example, Himanshu put forward this idea about musical instruments. So if we do a research on musical instruments, we can, in fact, Vijay, when I'm teaching this course, what I've told these students is we are not going to have any formal exam after it, like we do for all other subjects. Okay. What we are saying is that you choose an area of your interest, identify a problem, or think about a new idea in that particular field.
Absolutely.
Work on that idea, bring it to a stage where you feel that it is a patentable idea. Then the students will present it at the end of the course to a panel of experts. And if there is merit in that idea, we'll be passing it, because we are a research university. We focus a lot on research, and we also encourage our students to do a lot of patents. But most patents come from the engineering or the science side. We want the MBA students to take it up very seriously as well, and think of problems in the generic sense that we see all around us related to business.
With regard to the idea about instruments, actually, if you take, it reminded me of a paper from Dr. C.V. Raman. He has done long back, he has done a paper about the physics of Indian instruments or something like that, where he talks about the percussion instruments and how because he was an avid musician or a musical connoisseur, I think, and he was really interested in music and musical instruments. And so there was a paper where he actually, so it's one aspect is to identify different instruments, and also to take up an instrument and find out more about its historical significance, because there are so many instruments. For example, flute, when you think about Indian Hinduism and Indian mythology, and so it's supposed to have been handled by Krishna, so it should have been like a really old instrument. And there are like in Middle Eastern, there is I forget the name of the I don't remember the name. That is supposed to be one of the most ancient of the flute instruments ever, like from prehistoric times or something like that. So you can see this being played in a Yanni's concert by one of the greatest flutists there. He plays in his band. I'm very bad with names. I remember faces. I'm really bad with names. I remember Yanni because in Nostalgia he plays. That's the name of the piece. So it's an amazing instrument. So you can see from the prehistoric times to now the way an instrument has progressed, and such progression of instruments actually has imbibed the historical narratives which has happened. In a sense of the development of a mridangam, it has the politics also involved. What has been there in the development of such an instrument, and all these are imbibed in the way the instrument is produced and it's played and all these things. So of course it's like opening a Pandora's box, but one has to find a focus point. But I think that will automatically happen when you start with a problem statement. You automatically get to a point where you need to decide which roads to take, and that sense
So in that aspect, I have given them complete freedom. I'm not saying choose business. They can choose up any field, anything from anywhere. They can start anywhere. Ultimate aim is to come up with something new, because that is what his creativity is all about. And if it can be converted into a patent, that will be like a bonus both for the students, for the teacher, and for the institution. So that is the goal of the course, and that's how I'm taking this forward. We'll be ending the course in December end, so we still have some time. So if somebody wants to take up something related to music, I'm definitely going to be after Vijay to mentor you and spend some time with you. I'll join in calls from Berlin. If anybody chooses to do that project, please, it'll be wonderful. So Vijay, last request, play something for us before we say bye-bye and let you go.
So I'll play some A.R. Rahman piece so that everyone will know.
Sure, that'll be nice.
I'll play the theme of Bombay. I think that's a good thing.
Wow.
And then the string section comes.
That's so beautiful. Really, really beautiful. And what a
I can't stop saying that, I confess that when I joined this session, I thought that I'll be joining for 15-20 minutes and then I'll leave the session. And we just seriously, I loved it and I enjoyed it. And Ashu, we would request that we can have, maybe him again. And flute, I just loved it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Lots of our virtual applause and wows and phenomenal and lovely coming in. And everybody's thanking you, Vijay. And I also want to express really, just reaching out to you. This is the power of technology, you know. I don't know you personally. I have followed you on social media, and then I reached out to you, and look, here we are with 100 plus of our students, and you talking to them. It can't get more wonderful than this, and you playing the flute for us all the way from Berlin. While I sit and moderate this at Abu Dhabi while everybody's in India.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And of course, like you talked about your own collaborations and how you've been doing that. So I think we should focus on the positives of COVID as well, and how it has opened up new ways to communicate, new ways to learn. And it's fantastic. And your creative journey is fantastic. And I hope it continues and you achieve more and more milestones. I'll be sharing the YouTube channel with them. I'm already subscribed to it.
I hope that I'll get some new subscribers. Yeah.
Definitely. I'll make it a part of their assessment.
Yeah, that's good. So did you subscribe? And did you put like?
We monitor that by technology, yeah. So everything we are monitoring now.
Okay. Thanks a lot. And yeah, personally, I would like to thank Ashu and all of you who have been here, who have been patient enough to let me talk and you know, keep listening. When I rambled on, thanks a lot for putting up with that. Sometimes I tend to go on tangents, so I hope I didn't go too much on tangents. So I hope that was good. And yeah, I hope that in a way this was inspirational to you all. And I hope to hear some good news from Ashu that people are doing some patentable work there. Yeah. So that will be awesome.
Yeah, that will be awesome. And thank you so much, Vijay. And hopefully you'll be part of the creativity course for a long time to come.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Of course.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the students. Thank you for coming in on a Saturday. I'll see you in class soon. And thank you, Kesri. Thank you, everybody who joined in. And have a great weekend. You too, Vijay. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
I sent all the clicks to you. Just check.
Sorry?
What? I didn't get that, Kesri.
I sent the clicks, lot of clicks to you.
Oh. That's wonderful. Okay, on that note, bye-bye, everyone. And we'll see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.